In 2011, a group of Chinese artists arrived in New York City for an exhibition of paintings they made during the Cultural Revolution. They decided to spend an afternoon painting in Central Park. They stopped by an art store to pick up supplies.
The art supply in China is very low quality.
Back then.
Yeah.
而且那个颜色都是一个两个这样买。
现在很广泛，
对，而且现在很放松的，随便的买，而且
经济上也有区别的。
对。
Just to try find any kind of fabric you could use, as oil painting canvas. It's very bad.
Yeah, if in that time we don't have jeans like this quality jeans, we have regular pens, but the pen could be broken in the front. Then this part we can tear it off, then make it like a canvas.
That's why a lot of painting already damaged today, just because the material is too bad.
我那油画笔一般都用到，就已经完全不能用了，我才扔掉。那讲我说当年如果能让我在这儿随便拿东西，有人替我付钱，我会疯了，乐疯了。
They've been friends since the early 1970s. They met at the height of the Cultural Revolution while painting in Beijing's parks, painting forbidden images. In the China of Mao Zedong, during the Cultural Revolution, all art was made to serve the propaganda goals of the government. Music, opera, dance, film, and painting. Art and artists had one purpose: to serve the people, to mobilize them and invest them in Mao Zedong thought. The only art permitted was art approved by the government.
That night, my uncle hurried home and told us the Red Guards would soon start confiscating personal property. He urged me to destroy my paintings and art books. I couldn't believe it. How could a peaceful and harmonious society become like this? We didn't do anything wrong. We only painted. After my uncle left, my mother talked me into sorting out some art books and paintings. I buried them in a corner of the courtyard. No plastic was available, so I wrapped them in felt paper. It was past 4 o'clock in the morning when I finished my work. Dawn was breaking.
Art had to follow strict guidelines. Mao could only be portrayed as a determined young activist, or as a savvy military leader, or as a benevolent and always smiling father figure. The People's Liberation Army could only be shown in a supporting role, never leading but always protecting the people. Peasants and workers were always confident, brave, and steadfast. The guidelines even specified that the peasants had to have thick wrists. Backgrounds were filled with masses of people on the move toward a glorious future, or with idyllic depictions of farm life, or with the factories and dams of a China leaping forward, or with the natural wonders of China majestically portrayed. Official art and official artists ruled the day. Once the Cultural Revolution gripped the country, only revolutionary paintings remained. Landscape paintings were deemed to be tokens of bourgeois sentiment against the revolution. Artists whose work was judged reactionary or bourgeois were purged. Their so-called black paintings disappeared from public view. Art students whose families had bad political backgrounds were thrown out of art schools. Eventually, all schools beyond middle school were closed. Students were sent to the countryside to work in the fields alongside peasants, or they were sent to work in factories. It was a dangerous, chaotic time. Despite the chaos and danger, some bold young artists still sought out the solitude of Beijing's parks to paint forbidden art, to paint landscapes.
In late 1973, Little Fat and I went to Yuyuantan Park to paint after a snowfall. A man with black framed glasses was standing behind us, watching us paint. After a while, he couldn't resist telling us, "You painted the trunk in the wrong color. Watch me." He took the brush and stretched his arms straight out, squinted, and started painting. His name was Shi Zhenyu. A few weeks later, I returned to the park to paint in the forest. A man and a woman stopped to watch me paint. They were Yang Yushu and Zheng Zhiyan. We struck up a conversation, and I met 4 of their friends. As I was leaving, one of them suggested we should get together again soon and paint. From that moment on, we all went painting together whenever we could.
This group of painters eventually became known as the Wu Ming, or no-name group.
心目中其实他们都是很了不起的一种很有胆量的，或者说很有独立的性格的艺术家。工作我觉得是很了不起的，真的是很了不起的。虽然他们画的都是看上去是一种非常个人的感受的一些风景啊，或者说住宅周边的一些那什么的是吧？但是其实你是确实可以从里面看到他们的一种独立精神和他们的这种个人性格。
Ranging in age from 16 to 32, the group counted some 15 members and included a number of young women artists. A few had learned painting from their parents, who themselves were purged artists.
My father encouraged me to start drawing with a charcoal pencil. He told me not to worry about being accurate. He said it was more important to draw boldly, to grasp the sense of my subject. I did my first still life painting alongside my father. We painted apples and pears his friends had brought him.
Mostly they were self-taught. What they didn't know they learned from the older members of the group. Though they all came from different backgrounds, they shared a passion for painting.
We labored in the factory 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, plus 2 hours of political study. The only time we could paint was in the few hours after work and on our one day off. We hid our small paint boxes and shoulder bags when we went to work, and after work, we went by bicycle or bus to places where our friends knew to go. Or we gathered at each other's homes to paint still lifes and portraits. Meeting at home was not easy. Few of us had the luxury of a private bedroom, and neighborhood committees monitored who came and went.
To leave more time for painting, we made every effort to ask for sick leave. I once painted my feet black and blue to be on sick leave for 3 days.
Painting materials were scarce. The young artists scavenged cheesecloth and cardboard from shoeboxes to make their own canvases.
Because the whole nation was painting portraits of Chairman Mao, oil paints were in short supply. White paint wasn't available, so we had to make our own.
As underground artists, they faced harassment and denunciation by informants and police. The very act of meeting in groups of 3 or more made them subject to arrest.
I was totally engrossed in painting. All I wanted to do was paint. My father accused me of befriending dishonest, lazy people. He accused me of not coming home after work, of loitering about the city with a shabby paint box slung over my shoulder. No matter how I explained it, my parents could not understand me.
Before 1974, most of my works were painting exercises portraying reality. After graduation from middle school, I was assigned to a factory where I met other painters. We took trips together to paint nature. Friends influenced one another in pursuit of art. My new ideas about painting were taking shape, and I started to sketch natural sceneries on paper, using colors in a free and casual manner, direct and unreserved, almost like being drunk.
During the 1970s, life was turbulent. However, the most important part of my life was painting. It made me feel as if I was free from the social transformation. In the spring, when the peach blossoms were blooming, I would go and paint in Cherry Valley with Zheng Ziyan and some other friends. Sometimes, after finishing my paintings, I would spread my military coat on the ground and have a nap on it.
After our first visit to Beidahe in the spring of 1975, we returned often to paint by the sea. With only some steamed bread to eat, we painted the sunrise and the sunset over the sea. We visited my brother at the Shanhe farm in Heilongjiang province. During those days, we didn't care about poverty. We simply walked along the roads to get to where we were going. It was tougher than traveling nowadays, but we felt alive and full of wonder.
The pleasure of painting in the open air diluted the pain and discrimination I suffered in a chaotic society. Painting led me to a peaceful new world. As I painted, I felt so blessed and delighted to successfully represent nature.
I gradually began to use painting to express my emotions. I painted what was around me. Even when I was hungry, if I came across tomatoes, eggs in a pot, I painted them instead of eating.
In 1975, the young artists organized a clandestine exhibition in Beijing.
Group solidarity manifested itself in an underground exhibition held in Zhang Wei's home in the winter of 1975. We chose his apartment because it was in a Soviet-style building with pitch-dark hallways and isolated staircases, making it easier to evade the neighborhood committee's surveillance. Zhang's mother bravely opened her home for such a risky event. We even planned a special knock. Inside, about 15 people gathered. No one can remember for certain which paintings were displayed, but no one can forget the zeal and exhilaration of that day. This was a rite of passage into true art.
I was excited to find my own spiritual space in art. My life was given new meaning. At the same time that I was creating art, art was creating me.
那么应该算是他们家张伟家那个展览。从那天开始，他感觉到有一个团体的存在，感觉到那个就是说从那天开始就是觉得和以前不一样了，就是大家在那个上面吧，就等于第一次互相认同了。我倒没觉得什么危险，我母亲觉得有很大危险，因为我父亲搞这个艺术吧，就是解放前一直被追捕，解放以后每次运动都挨整，所以我母亲认为这个搞意识形态是很危险的。
其实这个危险的说法呢，应该说还有一个政治的背景。我们当时画的画，
这一说他都不讲，
是完全是没有政治的，但是没有政治本身就是一个政治态度。
There's a lot of movement, political movement that's against the pollution, spiritual pollution, or something like that. Okay, they feel what you are doing is Western bourgeois thinking and pervert, art, ordinary, oil painting, landscape, or portraits, or still life. You just feel it's very, very soft spoken, very beautiful, and very innocent, and that's really kind of dangerous, And if you have free thinking, that made you, looks like an outsider, not belong to the society, not fit into society. So that's something the parents always worry about, naturally. I never worried, I just love to do whatever I want to do. That's it,
我觉得最大的危险，当时是我没钱，然后画月票被抓住的危险。我觉得那个很危险。我画的特别认真，特别细。张伟画的不认真，所以张伟被抓住过，我没被抓住过。
你怎么放了你？
罚钱了。
什么事儿都没有，他都有可能给你造出一个事儿来，更何况你还是有点事儿。
The Cultural Revolution ended in 1976 with Mao's death. In 1979, the group held its first public exhibition in Beijing's Beihai Park, the first exhibition of unofficial art in post-Mao China.
我当时呢，其实是已经上美术学院了， 上美术学院呢，实际上呢，我就是很满足那当时在钻的那个画室里头。我其实又很羡慕和对这个像无名啊、星星啊、什么今天呀、什么这帮人所做的事情，和他们的这种胆量和他们的这种敏感度，对社会的这种关注的这种态度，我其实是很那个，就是说很尊重他们的。其实
The artists were asked for a group name to serve as a title for the exhibition. After much deliberation, they settled on the No Name Painting Association.
Having no name was our answer to repeated requests to define ourselves. We called ourselves No Name because no name could fully express our group's nature.
这个小组其实我觉得最可贵的一点呢是什么？就是说这些人其实对艺术的这种虔诚啊，和这个艺术和自己的生命之间的关系啊，我觉得这个小组的人其实实际上是走得非常非常远的了。之内呢，把艺术这个事儿，或者说把自己的这种真正要说的事情给推到一个极致。我觉得这种本事和这种态度，其实是现在的年轻人、学生需要有的。
After a second exhibition in 1981, the group drifted apart. Some went to Europe and America, their independent spirit still burning bright. Others started families. Some stopped painting. Some have become essential members of the vibrant contemporary Chinese art movement, a movement whose first brave footsteps were taken by the no-name artists during the dark days of the Cultural Revolution.
In the early 70s, we become a little circle. A lot of young, young kids, and some love literature, poetry, some love the art, music, and we play kind of, guitar. We have read a lot of stuff, like Jack Kerouac, Salingers, Allen Ginsberg.
你看当时没有，为什么那个文学流行这手抄本？就是因为没有出版这个环节，都是手抄，大家手抄。
手抄了以后，互相传阅。
还有那个年代吧，跟现在比哈，它本身那个年代是比较，虽然是文革，但是后期它是有一段时间是比较浪漫的年代，浪漫。 它为什么浪漫呢？一个是它有时间，它整个社会什么事儿都没有，大家都在那儿待着呢。个人之间的这个感觉到一些融洽、愿意，其实社会也提供了很大一个这样的一个可能性。因为从文革开始到后来，尤其是无名比较接近的那个年代，有很多这个形成这一类的，像我们这一类团体的这个空间，大环境它有几个空间，比如第一那个时候吧，文革后来结束了，上层还在摆平，没有功夫理老百姓这事儿。
现在回想起来，就现在回过头去看那些画，我仍然觉得那一段时间是一个特别美好的一段回忆。每张画，不能说每张画，大部分画都有一些故事在里面。我觉得那个是让我觉得特别好的。还有，我觉得我，特别高兴，能在那么早的时候开始，就是跟这么一群人一起画画。
No name, it's for me. It's not a political thing. That's like art for art's sake. When we were in that age, and if you're alone in the society, you just feel weird. You just feel helpless. And so when we get together, let's warm each other and exchange thoughts. And that's really something most important, friendship,
当时我们没有别的办法对抗这社会，但是自己需要去呐喊，去说一些自己的话，只能通过这个画儿来表达。
我一直觉得绘画是美好生活的一部分，过去是那样，现在也是这样。生活就变得特别有意思，丰富多彩了。